Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We thought we would discuss our NICU journey part 1. We think we're going to see how long it is and decide if we do 2 or just 1 video. Addie is about to go down to bed for a nap, and
say goodbye.
Say bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. And the twins have just started stirring. So we will get them up and feed them while we video again, otherwise we're just never going to get to it, we're so busy. I have in front of me my diary that we will use throughout our talk today. I kept it every day, well, I wrote in it every day that we were in NICU. I've also got some notes, so if you see us looking down, we are looking at our notes so we don't forget anything, because there was so much going on in NICU. You physically can't remember everything that happens every day, every setting that they're on, what their oxygen dropped to, how much milk they were having, how many blood transfusions they had, how many eye tests they had, all that. So I had it written down so we don't forget anything. The reason we are continuing for these videos, I guess, is to make awareness of the NICU life. It is very different to what people think. You don't really know much about it until you have been in it yourself. You meet some of the most amazing parents though, because you're going through the same thing as them. So please excuse if there is a lot of tears in this video. This is probably the hardest one of the videos we have made so far about our journey. If you haven't seen from the beginning, please go back and watch it before you watch this one. It will make more sense, obviously, as to why the girls were born so early. But yeah, NICU is quite isolating to start with. You walk in there not knowing what's going on, hearing all these binging and bongings, all the alarms and noises, people rushing around everywhere. So you don't really feel like talking to anyone, especially when you're recovering from a C-section. You kind of go straight to your pod and that's it, and you just do what you gotta do. Until you start to become part of the furniture, then you start to open up, you start to support people because you understand it yourself, so you want to help those newbies. And like I said, we've met some of the most amazing parents we could ever ask to meet from NICU, and some of the most amazing doctors and nurses that we still talk to now and keep updated. And a lot of you still watch our videos and follow us on Instagram, so thank you for that so much. I love keeping you guys updated on how they're going, especially those nurses that have looked after our girls. It's really heartwarming because you still obviously care about them. Yeah. The emotions throughout the NICU journey is nothing like I've ever felt before. Like I said in a few of the other videos, or if you follow me on Instagram, that anxiety is a big one, especially after having a cesarean. You've obviously got those postpartum hormones floating around, then when the milk comes in, then everything else, just recovering and having the baby early, or babies early. It's very overwhelming. You're happy, sad, terrified, anxious, I don't even know, all the emotions all in one. So throw NICU life on top of it, and some days were just bad, but other days were mediocre. And I suppose you take mediocre as good when you're in NICU. Yeah, so NICU is set up at King Eddie's. It is set up in what's called pods. So nursery 3 is the ICU. There is 20 something beds in there. There's 4 beds in each pod. So you kind of get your own little 4-bed room, I guess, but it's quite open. There's just a glass wall between each 4 sets of beds. Oh, who's this? Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Oh, upside down. When you walk in there, you don't really know where to go. There's just these beds everywhere, nurses everywhere. So you have to get directed to where your baby is. There is all these binging and bongings, like I said earlier. There's all these noises, alarms going off constantly that you panic about to start with, don't you? All the noises, you just panic. You're like, what's that? What's that? Oh my gosh, are they okay? And you focus so much on the numbers on the screen. So on the screen, it shows, most of the time it shows their heart rate, their oxygen saturation, and respiratory rate. So they keep an eye on those 3 main things. They also check blood pressure, and they can put carbon dioxide levels on there as well, I think. So they are detected by the sticky dots with the big wires coming off on the babies and the saturation foot probe on their foot. So they're constantly always on them to keep an eye on them, obviously. Otherwise you wouldn't have a clue what was going on. When the girls were first born, Hannah was one side of NICU and Riley was in the far corner, pretty much diagonal from each other. Probably as far away as you could get, almost as far away as you could get from each other. So going to see the girls was quite hard because we'd want to see both of them and spend equal time with both of them, but depending on what time their cares were and when they were having a feed, or you'd be bouncing between them, but you'd be running across the NICU floor. I think everyone got used to us like walking across the NICU floor, trying not to run between the 2 girls.
Then if you spent too much time with one girl, you feel guilty for not seeing the other.
So we try and spend an equal amount of time between the 2, but it was fairly hard to do that. But yeah, we did try. But some days we'd sit with Hannah and only got to say hi to Riley, or sit with Riley and only got to say hi to Hannah. Hello, Hannah. So if you look at Hannah, you would never guess she was a 25-weeker. Look at her. Look at you, Chubba. Chubba Bubba. You say hi. Hello. Hello. Would you like... Oh, you're so snuggly. Hannah's such a snuggly bomb now. Oh, Riley.
He's Riley.
Here's Riley. You just wake up. Hello, Bubby.
She's a bit disgruntled when she wakes up.
You wake me up. The girls are currently 8 months old, actually today. Happy 8 months. Can't believe they've been here for 8 months already. That time has flown by. Even though when you first start your NICU journey, the days drag, but the weeks go fast. So yeah, each day just seems to be long, but the weeks go really fast.
Feels like you're not making any
it feels like you're not making any headway, you're not getting anywhere, then all of a sudden it's been a week and you're like, oh, okay. Especially when nothing really happens over that few days or over that week. I was recommended to start a diary by other mums that I had done some research on and chatted to before the girls were born. So I grabbed one, and it actually says on there, create sunshine on a cloudy day. So I wanted a reminder to try and be happy, try and think of the positives throughout our journey. So every time I looked at my diary, I would think of those little happy moments, celebratory moments, and try not to think of the negatives too much. On day 2, we visited quite a few times. I think I probably overdid it that day with visiting. I was quite sore, cesarean recovery wise. So probably shouldn't have visited that often that day, but it was worth it to be able to see our girls, especially because I didn't see them much on the first day when they were actually born. They both had quite a stable day. Riley was on 1 ml every 6 hours, so the tiniest bit of my milk. And Hannah was on 1 ml every 4 hours because she was a bit bigger. Nan and Grandad, so Justin's parents, came to have a look at them as well that day and brought Addie with them as they were watching her while I was in hospital. They both were on umbilical lines, so they keep the nutrition flowing through the
Fluids and nutrition.
Through the umbilical cord. They had TPN, fluids, antibiotics, and caffeine going through that IV line, umbi line.
So TPN is a nutrient mix. What is it?
Total parental nutrition or something.
Yeah. So it's basically a replacement for milk.
Yeah. So it's got all the vitamins, minerals, everything that they need in it. So they're still getting their nutrition, but they're not getting like the fats and things like that from the milk. Addie came to visit me that day. It was really good to see her. I don't think she quite knew what was going on. Mum was in hospital, Dad was away, Nan and Grandad were watching her, but she took everything in her stride really. She was pretty good. She's been good the whole journey. Day 3, Vana, Nonna and Nonna came to visit the girls. So my mum and my dad and my stepmum came to visit us and the girls. Hannah on this day went on to CPAP. Do you want to say what CPAP is?
What's it stand for? What's the acronym?
Continuous positive airway pressure.
Yeah. So they're nasal prongs, but they maintain a constant pressure behind the air, rather than
just air.
Yeah, rather than low flow, which is just supplying it to the area. It actually has a pressure and pressurises the incoming air through the lungs.
So it does that by pressurising, making bubbles with water. So please don't quote us on all this. We are only NICU experts, not nurses and doctors. And it has been a while since we have used these acronyms and things like that in our everyday life. On that day when Hannah went on to CPAP, one of her nurses actually said she is strong like Xena warrior princess. She was always a feisty little one, weren't you? Which was good to hear. That's what they want in NICU. You want them to be feisty, you want them to fight for their life. And from day 1, Hannah kind of did that. That was a lot of the comments. Riley was on the jet ventilator. I think we mentioned it in our last video. It is a gentler form of ventilation. So it's smaller breaths more often. It sounds...
They're intubated as well.
Yeah.
So they're intubated and gives really intermittent puffs of air.
It sounds like a jet plane, hence why it's called a jet. I don't know if that's the actual reason why it's called a jet, but it sounds like a jet plane. So that's why they, in a lot of Riley's pictures from early on, she's got the yellow earmuffs on her ears to protect her hearing because it is really loud in the incubator. Hannah took to a dummy that day. So from day 3, Hannah has loved a dummy.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed. They both love their dummies. Riley's feeds were stopped that day because her tummy was looking a bit distended, so she had a little bit of a break. Day 4, Hannah and Riley both got to their lowest weights they were. Hannah got down to 845 grams and Riley was 485 grams. So quite small. And you could definitely see it on Riley. A couple of the photos have her like ribs sticking out and things like that. You could tell she dropped fluid. in those first few days. It was kind of
her arms and everything, just skin and bone.
just nothing, and there was no butt. She had no bottom at all for months. Just nothing to fill the nappy. They had a ultrasound to check their heart with a PDA. To see the hole in the heart if it had closed. Riley's was actually closed, which was amazing. Hannah's was not closed, so they were keeping an eye on her, and it's very common when any babies are born that it doesn't quite close fully, especially in prems. It sometimes can take a little while. So they were going to keep an eye on Hannah's. They were also both under the lights, the UV lights, for jaundice, so the yellowing of their skin, because when they came out they were bright red. Obviously their skin was translucent, there was no support there, I guess. Like, it hadn't developed as it should have, being so early.
Is it the keratin? It doesn't develop keratin until later in the pregnancy, so they come out with see-through skin.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Which is pretty confronting to see.
When you've only really ever seen a full-term newborn. Both of their girls got their umbilical lines out on that day. IV lines went in instead. Exactly the same stuff was still going through it. And neither of them had pooped yet. So it takes a while. They like them to try and poo as early on as they can to get everything out of their system, so you know it's actually, like, their digestive tract is actually working. Day 6, I got my first kangaroo cuddle with Hannah. It was a moment I'll never forget, having her actually on me. She was tiny. It was, beautiful. There's no words to describe it. I was terrified to hold her. But it was really nice to finally, after almost a week of just doing hand cuddles, so just putting your hands on them and doing their cares, like changing their nappy and checking their temperature and things like that, it was actually nice to be able to give her a cuddle and just show her Mummy was still here, I guess. On that day as well, Hannah got to wear clothes for the first time. So in NICU they have little vests that they get to be dressed up in, and that was pretty cute. Another positive, I suppose, being able to pick what little clothes they were going to wear for the day. So you'd have to rummage through all the baskets to find the cutest ones that would fit. So usually when the washer came in, I'd go and see if I could raid the stash to find the cutest ones. Riley finally pooped on day 6. She was actually tolerating her feeds better than Hannah, and has always really tolerated her feeds better than Hannah, until now, where Hannah's obsessed with feeding. Day 7, Hannah pooped. On this day, the mummy guilts really kicked in, I guess, leaving them every day, trying to pump every 3 hours, including overnight, trying to not worry about if we were going to get a phone call from an unknown number, which is the hospital, so you're constantly waiting by your phone. Plus driving to and from the hospital, an hour and a half from where we live. Just everything got too much, trying to juggle Addie, trying to recover from a cesarean as well, being in pain. Oh.
Shouldn't laugh.
So hard. Sorry.
Is that not enough, Hannah? Oh.
Darling. Hey, you're okay, darling. Hannah gets quite upset when her bottle finishes. She thinks it's not enough when actually it is. Oh. Are you okay now? On day 7 as well, Addie first went into the creche at the hospital. They have a free creche for siblings, excuse me, for siblings, but it is time restricted, which made it even harder to be able to spend a lot of time with the girls, because we were trying to juggle the times for the creche with when the girls would have their cares, and they'd both have cares at different times, or sometimes they'd have it at the same time. Yeah, it was hard work. They both had their first head scans to check if they had any brain bleeds. Both of them had no brain bleeds, which was amazing, especially for Riley. They were a bit concerned, being so little, that she may have a brain bleed, but nope, all good. Their feeds were going up and they were mostly stable along the way. DSATs and Braddies were common. So a DSAT is when they drop their oxygen saturation levels. So a normal person is what? Anything from?
Above 96, 98%
of oxygen in their body. And a Braddie or bradycardia is when their heart rate drops.
Slow heart rate. It's bradycardia.
Yeah. So both are not really good, but they're very, very common for premature babies, and they do eventually grow out of them.
By common, like every few minutes you'd be expecting. We were expecting to have one. And they weren't always severe. Their sats might only drop to 80s or sometimes 70, which, while it's not good, after a while it was just standard.
Up and down.
And to start with, every time we do it, you'd panic and
all the time.
Yeah.
And then you get used to it, and then you'd be just sitting there watching it, going, "Come on, bring yourself back up. You can do it. You're fine." Or you give them a little poke, depending on how severe the Braddie was. Sometimes they need a bit of a stimulus. But yeah, they did grow out of them. And it's even common for full-term babies to have them to start with.
You just don't know.
You just don't know about
up to the machines.
Yeah. On day 10, Hannah hit over a kilo. Woohoo! So little milestones like that, 1 and 2 kilos, are celebrated in NICU by bringing a kilo cake. So we brought in a 1 kilo cake to celebrate, which was nice for the nurses. You celebrate little things like weight gain, even if it's 5 grams in NICU. Every little gram added is beneficial. They do go up and down though, but you always, when you go in, when you first walk in, you say hello to them, and then you go check the chart and see how their night has been and see if they've been weighed and things like that. So yeah, you try and celebrate those little milestones of a little bit of a weight gain. Riley's oxygen always sat between like 30% and 60% from the machine, so she required quite a lot of oxygen, where like we breathe 21% oxygen from like now in the outside air, so she required quite a bit, sometimes up to the 60%, but usually she was around 30 to 40% oxygen. She could only have hand cuddles for almost 2 weeks. So we could only really cup her, I suppose you could say, like hand on the head and hand on her legs or bottom. 2 weeks in, my C-section scar got infected, probably from doing so much and getting up and driving and pumping and like constantly moving. I didn't really get to rest at all. Probably the only time I was resting was when I was sitting and pumping in NICU, in the jet, or when we were trying to sleep at night. I went to the ED. They gave me antibiotics, but it didn't really help. One morning while I was pumping, it actually popped, and off to the local hospital I went. It was pretty gross. 2-day stay, and I was on IV antibiotics and fluids. Wasn't doing so well. Felt like forever that we were away from the girls, and I was trying to get transferred there, but by the time they organised the transfer, I was just discharged on oral antibiotics. At that time, Riley was actually unwell too, so that was the first time she got sick, and she was put on antibiotics as well.